You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Welcome to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynne Golodner, a writer, entrepreneur, and changemaker, and I've dedicated my life to sharing stories of how people make meaning in their work and find purpose in their lives. You were just listening to an original Make Meaning composition by my son, Asher Schreiber. This podcast highlights some of the great ideas and activities people do every day to make the world a better place. So much of the meaning we find comes from interacting with great people, developing relationships that are mutually beneficial, and doing work that inspires. I hope you'll be inspired by the people you meet on this podcast. We all need to find a way to make meaning in the mundane. My guest today is David Dwaihy, who is one of the owners of Detroit City FC. So David was born in Detroit and raised in Grosse Pointe Woods. He attended Kalamazoo College, where he played soccer, studied math, and first met fellow DCFC owner Sean Mann. Dave has taught math and coached soccer at University Liggett School since 2002. He oversees operations for Le Rouge, a role in which he works primarily as liaison between the coaching staff, players, and ownership group. Dave lives in Grosse Pointe Woods with his wife and their two young children. Nicknamed The Touch by DCFC supporters, Dwaihy is the only owner to date to suit up for both DCFL and DCFC. A midfielder for Le Rouge, he pretty much played wherever he wanted and scored whenever he wanted as a member of Hubbard Farms in their inaugural season. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. I was wondering where you got that bio, and then I figured it out. I think it was written by a partner of mine with Detroit City. It's very
hope it's
flattering
okay.
and not entirely true.
So tell me a little bit about DCFC. We're going to just start by, for any of our listeners who may not be lucky enough to know about this amazing soccer team in Detroit, I just wanted to know if you could give a little bit of background about what it is and how it got to be this big cult following that it is right now.
Yeah, thanks for the shout out. So Detroit City FC is a minor league soccer team. Originally, we played downtown at Cass Tech. Our first season was the summer of 2012, and eventually the team kind of consists mostly of current college players and some recent graduates. We play in a nationwide league that's sort of designed to be the summer league for college players. And as you mentioned earlier, my connection to the team was a college classmate of mine named Sean Mann, who is a very active member of the city of Detroit, politically speaking and otherwise. He's super involved. Everybody seems to know him. And he had started a recreational league 2 years prior in 2010. And it kind of blew up. People were just really interested in the idea of co-ed recreational soccer. The games were at Belle Isle. From the first to the second season, the league doubled in size, and he kind of looked around and said, hey, we've got sort of a following here, a natural fan base, and so he decided to start the minor league team. That took off in 2012, like I said. But he started that team, and it really just took off. There were a bunch of people that seemed to be interested in following a minor league team in the city. From the first to the second summer, the attendance basically doubled in size, and so eventually we grew out of Cass Tech, and now we're playing our home games in Hamtramck at Keyworth Stadium, and we've had upwards of 7,500 people at a game. So, like you said, it's kind of got this cult following. There's this really passionate base of supporters who come to every game, and they sing and they chant and they dance the whole time. There's kind of like almost like a festival feel to the games.
Yeah.
And I think usually it's the case that if somebody comes out just sort of not knowing what to expect, they end up having a really good time and bring a friend the next time. So we've benefited from that exponential growth that
it's really
comes
awesome.
from word of mouth. And Yeah.
It's really amazing. So, it's funny. We always sit on the family side, but my oldest son and my husband recently sat on the supporter side, and my son was like, "That's it. We're always over there now." He's like, once you go there, you can't go back.
The one thing that I think was we were very fortunate, and we were sort of right place, right time. But the one thing that I think really fell in our lap was when we had games at Cass Tech, and it's the same at Keyworth. The crowd is right up on the field. Most soccer stadiums have like a track that separates the play from the stands, and so I think everybody that's come really feels like this unique sort of access to the game. You're right up on it, and you almost feel part of it. And so, when you go, whether you're on the family-friendly side or the supporter side, you're really close up. But I think those supporters really feel like they're playing a role, and they are. I mean, they're such a 12th man, so to speak.
So I just have to ask, because it feels to me like DCFC, I almost can't find the words, but it's like very Detroit. I feel like I'm such a part of Detroit, and I'm really proud to be when I'm at a DCFC game. Why do you think it's like that? How do you guys achieve that as opposed to anything else? And I'm very Detroit proud, but there's just something where I feel like this is emblematic of being a Detroiter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think a lot of people identify with it that way. I know so I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in Grosse Pointe. I still live there. I'm the only member of the ownership group that doesn't live in the city proper. But, growing up, I always kind of felt this desire to be connected to the city, but I never really had a point of access. And as I got older, I'd venture in and try out, restaurants and events. But, this has been on a personal level for me, this has been my first real point of connection to the city. And I think what I've found, and I think everybody else, like you're saying, kind of experiences the same thing. It's sort of the grassroots nature of it, the sort of self-made, there's food trucks at the game with supporting local business. There are students from in this case, Hamtramck Public Schools, but when we were at Cass Tech, the Detroit Public Schools, there's just like this real interconnectedness there. And for a city that for a while was sort of forgotten, it's become a place now where I think you can kind of try anything you want, and it's going to just be naturally supported by those that are like-minded, and there's just something really self-made about it. And everybody that goes to a game is kind of part of its success, which is also a really kind of special quality. I think everybody feels like they've played a role in building it up to what it is now. And that's very quintessentially Detroit, right? So I think
I love it.
We should all feel good about supporting something like that.
Yeah, so I understand that the motto for the club is passion for our city, passion for the game. Am I right about that? Yeah.
Yep.
Which is really cool. And, I'm in PR and marketing, and I'm very sensitive to words. And so a lot of times, businesses will come up with a tagline or even just like a mission that sort of it doesn't say much or it's not specific. And I love this passion for our city, passion for the game, and, looking at how the city comes first, but there's passion for both, which is really cool. And I'm interested to hear a little bit about the business side of DCFC, because it's a real success story, having grown it, from just sort of, like you said, a grassroots effort. It now does have a huge following, and you guys have partnered with some pretty big advertisers. I know, every year there's another company or another big collaboration that sort of even increases the status, So this season I noticed that Lyft is a big supporter. I'm sure you have others as well. Tell me a little bit about that business growth and what has the strategy been?
Yeah, well, it was really, it's kind of an interesting trajectory that we've taken. I mean, the first season when we were about to launch, or as we were launching, one thing we've always kind of tried to do in terms of, marketing and brand is we, like you said, the city came first. So we wanted to, kind of create something where, like if you look at any T-shirt or merchandise item we've ever sold, like there's not really any evidence that we're a soccer team. And ultimately, we kind of hoped that people would catch on to that and that would sort of have a coolness factor to it. But when we first started, we were this undemonstrated product. We hadn't played a game. There was nothing really that was attractive to kind of one of those big fish that you hope to reel in terms of like a title sponsor. And so we had to get creative. And what we ended up doing is we just had, typically like a soccer team will have a title sponsor that's like on the front of their jersey. And, over time that came to be, and now, this year, like you said, we have Lyft. But that first season, we just did individual player sponsors. And so we went around to all the small businesses and upcoming businesses in Detroit and basically got a smaller financial commitment from each one to be on the front of a single player's jersey. So, for example, our captain's jersey had Supino's Pizza on the front, and our defender had a Wheelhouse Detroit, and our goalie wore Recycle now, and it just basically like we were kind of like a de facto yellow pages for small businesses in Detroit.
I love that. That's awesome.
And it really worked well. Like we were kind of thinking like, we had 28 guys on the team that summer. We're like, can we get 28 small businesses to just chip in a little bit to help us kind of get over the hump here and get started? And
that's brilliant.
The response was incredible.
Yeah, that's brilliant marketing. I've really never heard of that.
Yeah, I got to give all the credit to my partners. These guys sort of had that vision, and my contribution to the group has always been sort of soccer specific. But these other guys that I've had the pleasure of working with have been really thoughtful and business savvy, and so yeah, that was kind of the start of it. And then we've still maintained really strong relationships with our sort of the like-minded businesses in Detroit, but then we've also grown to a point now where we've attracted the attention of Metro Detroit Chevy dealers. They sponsored us for 3 years, and now we've got Lyft, which is a really great partner for us.
That's awesome.
For a lot of reasons.
That's great. It's really, really impressive. Then I want to ask one more question about DCFC, and then I want to ask you a couple of questions, but
Sure.
What do you see as the vision for the future? Where do you guys want to take this club?
Yeah, so it's an exciting time for us. We're, in addition to the growth that's been for the minor league team, we are kind of making our foray now into youth soccer and trying to really play a role in making soccer an accessible sport for children in the city. We're starting our first select teams this summer, and we're getting it fully subsidized so that we can have 4 youth teams where the residents of the city can play and not have to worry about the typical hurdles in terms of finances and transportation.
Awesome.
And we're also building an indoor center that we're calling the Detroit City Field House, which is right in the city, pretty close to Belle Isle on Mount Elliott and Lafayette. And that'll have 2 functional soccer fields and a bar restaurant in between.
Nice.
And so that's kind of our next big undertaking, and we're hoping that'll also help serve the local community and ultimately be a place where people can kind of cultivate a love for the sport. And, really, I think our ultimate goal in terms of the passion for the game part of our motto is that we really just want to try and, grow the sport in Metro Detroit and in the city itself, and kind of try and help foster a situation where more and more kids grow up playing the sport and end up remaining participants in some form or another, whether that's as fans of the minor league team or casual participants in recreational leagues. We really just kind of, we all share the vision that there's a ton of value in the sport in terms of the way it kind of puts you in touch with your community and outside communities. And we just want to try and grow that as much as possible and give some love to our beloved Detroit in the process.
I love it. I love it. And I don't know if it's politically correct to ask this or not, but how did you feel about us not getting a major league soccer team for Detroit? I have my feelings about it, but I wonder if you could even say anything. What'd you say?
That's a tricky question for me because, like the idea of professional soccer in Detroit is obviously something that really appeals to me.
Yeah.
But I also kind of feel strongly that we already have a team in Detroit, and that team is Detroit City FC, and I'm really confident that can grow into something that would be really special and enjoyable for people that are attracted by the MLS potential.
I agree.
It's a pretty complicated issue. I mean, the soccer landscape in the United States is rapidly evolving, and every week it seems you hear a twist in the plot. But for now, it seems like the bid is going to be postponed, and so the way we kind of look at it is we have more time to grow and do our best to make a case for some version of professional soccer in Detroit, and we hope it'll be us.
Yeah, well, that's how I felt. I said, my loyalty right now is to DCFC, so I don't need another team to compete for my dollars at that point. But I'm sure I'm not alone, So,
yeah.
So I have to ask, your day job is very different. You are a math teacher, right?
Yeah, I'm a high school math teacher.
And you also coach soccer, right?
Correct.
So tell me about that.
I work at a small, I work at a small independent school in Grosse Pointe Woods called University Liggett School. And the high school's got about 250 students in it. So in terms of athletics, we're like a Division IV in most sports. So I coach the boys varsity in the fall and the girls varsity in the spring. And then throughout the year, I teach math in the high school, typically calculus and pre-calculus.
Nice. So how do you see these two passions intersecting or even complementing each other?
Yeah, there's been a really natural complementing that's kind of evolved. I didn't really expect it to go so well, but as I had been working as a teacher for about 8 years before Sean approached me about getting involved with his recreational league and then the minor league team. And so when we first started, I was actually able to play for DCFC. I played the first summer and a little bit in the second year, and then we had children, and I got too slow to keep up with the guys. But long story short, it turned out as we launched that first summer and we had games, I would randomly see Liggett students at the games, and I wasn't telling anybody about it. I didn't really think it was anything that would necessarily interest anyone as we were getting started. And it was this wonderful surprise that somehow, word had spread and kids were hearing about it. So there were a couple games where I was suiting up and I'd, run off the field and one of my students would, say, Mr. Dwaihy. And it was just a really nice, when those two worlds collided, it was really cool. And my employer has always been very supportive of me devoting a little bit of extra time at certain points in the year to DCFC matters.
Sure.
And there have been a lot of really neat points of overlap.
So I just have one last question for you, David, if you don't mind, when we wrap up the interview.
Of course. Sorry about that.
No worries. What advice would you have either for your students or just for people listening, about how to make your passion into what you devote your days to? You really integrate what you love to do and what you're good at in a lot of areas of your life. So what advice would you have for others who might be inspired to try to follow the same path?
Yeah, I would say, for me, I kind of fell into it. I was just kind of going with the flow, teaching and coaching, and then a friend from my past approached me about getting involved in this side project. And, I think just the idea of sort of being open to the things that come your way that maybe, appeal to certain parts of your personality or your interests. Soccer was a huge part of my youth. And I was able to play in college. And so the idea of kind of keeping it a part of my life was really something that I was open to at the time. And, sure enough, it's kind of unfolded into this big, sort of unofficial part of my job. And like I was saying earlier, there are a ton of connections have developed between my actual career, teaching and coaching, with playing and being involved in this minor league team. And, I just, all sorts of rewarding things have come about just because I sort of said yes to a buddy who said, "Hey, are you interested in getting involved in this?"
I think if you
never was. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you just stay true to who you are and what you love to do, it leads you down some really great roads. And I think that's what you've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think back to the initial invitation was just to play with the recreational league team that he had started in his neighborhood. And, I just said yeah, sure. Why not? I was still kind of playing somewhat competitively, but just kind of randomly said yes to something. And, 8-9 years later, it's turned into probably apart from my family, the thing in my life that I'm most proud to be associated with.
That's awesome. That is so great.
Definitely a good lesson in that.
Well, congratulations. And I look forward to much more excitement with DCFC. And I really thank you, David Dwaihy, co-founder of Detroit City FC, for being part of this Make Meaning podcast. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you out at the game.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Make Meaning podcast. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and I'd love it if you would share these great conversations with your people.